Welcome everybody, this is Denny with GetWisdom, and Carl and I are going to do a very interesting channeling today. Carl's going to do the channeling, I'm going to ask the questions, and this is going to be, tentatively right now we're thinking about doing 2 of these sessions, and this is going to be with a reptilian who's in the light. And so we are looking at 9 questions for today. We did check in with Creator first off to see if this is even feasible, and we were told it is. And so this is going to be an unnamed reptilian who's in the light, and then from this series of questions, we're hoping that with the information it's gained, it's going to enable us to ask more maybe better questions or kind of like follow-on questions for another session that we're going to do probably within a few weeks. So thank you so much, Carl, for joining us. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about this channeling subject, because this is we're kind of going off the reservation here with this one.
Indeed, we are, and we have been given a green light by Creator, but it's not Creator's job to save us from ourselves. So we always have to keep that in mind. This is the thing about the divine. I mean, everyone thinks God is running everything, and it isn't so. God is letting us have a totally free hand. That's why it's such a mess, because we're getting help with that. The craziness, the chaos, the turmoil. So we've got all these interlopers who are more like criminals than not, and they have the power as it happens right now. And these ETs are very much in the power structure, and they run the world from behind the scenes, but nonetheless, they control everything. They net down to every little piece of what happens, but in the broad sense, controlling the money, controlling the governments, what happens with the military engagements, and a lot of the criminality and the environmental chaos and destruction and upheaval. It's their doing. So they're doing a manipulation of us. This is the game. So we're keen on learning more about that, and hopefully to shed some light on what's happening in ways that will prove to be helpful to our cause, which is for everybody to win. And by that I mean not to have military winners and losers, or maybe a truce where we all live happily ever after as one big happy family. Oh, that wouldn't be so bad. But to have everyone receive some divine inspiration and healing, so the need for conquest and subjugation goes away.
Right.
That'll solve our problem. If you get the bully off your neck, you can breathe again. you can go and live your life unhindered and without fear. That's what needs to happen. We don't need to see people jailed and killed and mounds of corpses and that sort of thing. Like you would see in a Hollywood movie about worlds in collision. There's gentler and more divine ways to handle differences, and that's what's missing right now. So these beings are atheists. When they come down into their physical form, they're disconnected from the divine, as many humans now are through choice. And through their ideology, they're adopting a secular view of things, and it's not serving them, because God will remain silent if you want that. That's the free will you have. You can say no to God all day long and keep that divine source away. It will always be within you. It just will be silent, and it won't be interfering with you in any way. So it will not help you either. If you don't want help, you won't get it. So if you want to be preyed on and be a victim, you have that within your power to see to. And that's the role most people are playing. They don't realize they're creating their own small world of imprisonment. So, I know I'm talking about all kinds of dark things, but that's what we're dealing with. And that's the prelude for this interview. We know these beings are here in the earth plane. They're interacting with us. They've infiltrated us in numerous ways, all through our society, including the highest levels of leadership in many instances. So they have the upper hand functionally in a physical sense. They don't have the upper hand morally, but many humans are not weighing in with a vote about morality and about ethics because they don't even know there's a problem. They're asleep. They're being kept complacent through mind control manipulation. It's like we've all taken a drug and we're just in happy land and ignoring certain realities that are creeping up bit by bit. So those who are aware know there's something up. There's a huge ET presence that we know in recorded history has been there all along. It hasn't gone away. It's not talked about in the media. That's a suppression and a manipulation as well. But there's thousands of UFO missions every day done by extraterrestrials doing abductions. This is unabated. It's still huge, and there's sinister reasons for it. And there are plans in the works to cause trouble for humanity, serious ones. So we're facing a potential elimination so they can have our planet. This is how bad it can get if we let it. The only answer we have is to partner with the divine and ask for divine assistance with this.
Right.
Because it's totally up to us. If we don't choose that, Creator won't jump in and save us.
So
Creator will have to let us go under.
So this isn't the first time that we've explored the subject of reptilians. Maybe not well, even on the series. I mean, probably the most notable one was when we channeled Anne Robards, and she gave us the account from the light about the abduction of her family into a reptilian slave colony. And so that was probably the first time that we ever encountered this publicly. But you've done a lot of private channeling work around this subject, and through your healing work, you've learned quite a bit about reptilians. And then we've had the additional channelings where we talked to was Carl Durnitz, Alan Dulles, Werner von Braun, and was there another one that we did? But where we found out that they were actually killed and replaced by reptilians. So they used the human DNA as a map, if you will, to recreate a human form, but occupied by the soul of a reptilian to conduct higher level geopolitical affairs, for the benefit of the Nazi government, and in the case of Alan Dulles, the U.S. government. So with what you've learned so far, for the stuff that we've covered publicly and the stuff that you've covered privately, are you expecting any surprises from this exchange that we're going to have, or is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to learn that has not been covered yet, or what do you think? What's your feeling about the questions that we've got lined up for this?
Well, I really don't know what to expect. I truly don't. And so this is new ground for me as well, because I've talked to many dark spirits. I have a good feel for how they think and their general perspective about life and what they're all about and what they're reacting to, the forces that are being brought to bear on them. But I've not talked to an insider within the extraterrestrial cabal. There is an extraterrestrial alliance that's entirely dark. There are no beneficial, benevolent extraterrestrials here in the physical.
Okay, but
on the planet.
We do have an example, though, of some reptilians who have been influenced by surreptitiously or otherwise through the healing work. So we have some.
Well,
Can you talk about that a little bit?
well, this is not to say that they're unsalvageable and beyond the pale. Just like with humans who follow a flag that doesn't serve them, and they get involved in war and acts of depravity and maybe subjugate or decimate in a genocidal sense an entire civilization. It doesn't mean they're going to perish or be rejected by the Almighty when they live out their physical lives. They will go back to the light, just like humans do. They go back to their respective place in that higher astral plane. They are not ever abandoned by the divine unless it reaches such an extreme that a decision is made, it's not workable. That has happened with the fallen angels, the dark demonic spirits. I call them spirit meddlers. They have lived out their chances and used up their 9 lives as far as creator goes. They're cut off now energetically. Everyone else is being supported through creator's energy flowing in. All the physical ETs as well as humans. We have that life force, and that's what makes something living versus dead. It's creator's life force coming into them. So everyone's being supported for the moment. But I'm told that these extraterrestrials are so dark now through being preyed on for so long, long before humans were in existence. This has been going on. So they're a role model for what not to do and how to let that grip of negativity reign unaware below the surface to the consciousness of these beings. And they become more and more selfish, self-serving. They're all atheists, for example. They have no belief in a higher power. They think our belief in that is just silliness. They view it like we think of Santa, you know, it's like a folklore thing. And so they know it excites us and, you know, we go for it. So it's sort of like asking us, well, you know, when Santa comes, is it going to be wonderful? And get your presents ready, your dreams, because Santa's going to come and bring you those beautiful packages with the bows and all that. And this is what the channelers get from the extraterrestrial psychic minders, the handlers.
Yeah.
So, you know, the promises of ascension and, you know, and even saviors coming from the benevolent ETs. It's all propaganda.
So the average lifespan of a reptilian being is, do we know?
It's a good question. I'm trying to remember now. It's in the hundreds of thousands of years.
Okay. All right. So
it's a lot longer than we have. Yes.
Yeah, I would say. And then
this is part of their problem. You know, the Anunnaki, who are the most powerful in the alliance and the originators of this whole sorry mess, from the ET side of things, they can live up to 1 million years.
Right.
And one of the difficulties is they have very, very little time with Creator because they're in the physical form for so long and they're coming into an atheistic culture. So any memory of being in the light is rapidly gone. And then they lose that
right.
sense of morality and ethics that they reconnect to when they're in the light.
Right.
In those very brief intervals.
So with the reptilians, when they pass, do they tend to stay earthbound, or I don't know if the earthbound's the right word, but stay in the lower astral plane and not go to the light, or what I'm getting at here is that with humans, we know that about 1/3 don't have a successful transition. Well, what's it like for the reptilians? What's the situation for the reptilians in that regard? Do we know?
We don't know. I have not asked that question. And that would be a good thing to know. For practical purposes, in terms of the contest going on between us and the extraterrestrial alliance, those that are stuck in the lower astral on the ET side are at least out of the action. So they're unavailable to be an opponent for the time being.
But aren't they utilized as meddlers or as
Well,
spirits that?
that's a good question. The Anunnaki spirits they are used tactically to commandeer the dark angelic spirits, the fallen ones, and to target people and direct them and commandeer them via threats. So it's possible there are reptilian spirits as well serving that sort of role. So I know reptilians can be a factor in influencing people in a similar way as the Anunnaki spirits. And I just never thought about whether that's coming from a spirit form versus a physical form, because they're all telepathic beings. So they have little regard for one another. They don't revere life as we do and see people as special. And that comes from our religious background, our religious perspective, that life is sacred, because we understand that term to mean something related to divinity. They don't have those sort of beliefs.
Yeah.
It's all materialism.
Okay, well, to be fair here, that's not one of the questions on our list, but I did add this one at the end, and then we could follow up on the next series, depending on the answers that we get on this one. What percentage of reptilians who pass have a successful transition to the light? And then, we might, a lot, as typical with these sessions, a lot of times we'll get answers to subsequent questions in the answer to the previous question. For whatever reason that happens quite a bit. So we'll probably learn a lot more than what's just indicated by the questions we have in the series here. But this promises to be very interesting, and it's going to really help us to get a better handle on understanding what's going on and why, and perhaps even with leading to some elements that could be included into the Lightworker Healing Protocol for aliens too. I don't know. I mean, it's a distinct possibility, I would think, because we could perhaps ask for things that aren't in the protocol now that would help the situation. Maybe not. That might be a little bit. That might be stretching things a little bit. But I'm thinking that this is going to be pretty interesting. We're going to learn a lot.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we get started?
All right.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just take a couple moments to get in the right state of consciousness and to put safety around the word, which is very critical. And I have a process I use for that so that I am protected and those working with me are protected and the interaction is protected and shielded. It's quite essential, because just reaching out intuitively is a risk, as it turns out. You're broadcasting your presence as an intuitive. You're beaming that energy out into the universe. You will be noticed. Dark spirits will see that, and they'll rush to that energy trying to get on board and then begin to drain it from you if they get in. ETs will see it as well, and they'll go and see what you're up to, and they'll try to talk with you. They'll try to engage and do some kind of a handshake. And then you'll have an unholy alliance going. And this is how channelers find out that they're talking to someone they don't think. They were not thinking about safety when they started out trying to do channeling. And they immediately engaged with some low-level being, like an extraterrestrial. And they're very clever at managing humans and human channelers. They'll feed them all sorts of spiritual teachings and reworked principles that they've learned over thousands and thousands of years. Always get results. Talking to us about love. We're just suckers for that. They don't get it. They're not love-based beings, but they know we do. So they'll feed that to us. It's like catnip. Oh, this one needs a little more catnip, So they'll throw in something that we'll respond to. And if you're naive, as most are, who would expect this sort of scenario? I mean, this is so bizarre. So anyway, I take great care to work through Creator of all that is, to do my channeling. to actually help me make the connection.
Okay.
And that's why I believe I am successful in my work, because I'm getting very high level help and protection around it. This isn't easy to do. There are a number of requirements and criteria that have to be in place. And I say that not to build myself up. This isn't about ego. This is about the reality of our world, that it isn't what it seems on the surface. There are risks in everything. There's corruption everywhere. This is not a nice place to be in so many respects. And it's only because the extraterrestrials are wanting to do this covertly that we have some semblance of normal life here. But meanwhile, the threat is gathering behind the scenes. So,
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
This is your reptilian contact speaking.
Thank you for joining us. What is the role fear plays in the reptilian culture, and is there any awareness among incarnated reptilians of Creator of all that is?
Fear is everything within our world. The culture we inhabit, as you call us reptilians, is entirely a power structure, a hierarchy of the greatest power lording over others of weaker nature. Power goes to the strong, to the ruthless, to the cunning, to the clever, to those willing to go to any extreme to prevail in any kind of contest. It is a world of many kinds of savagery. This is a honing and a refinement of abilities and skills and talents that are prized among our kind. It is quite different than your realm and somewhat difficult to imagine. If you think of animal savagery with keen intelligence and telepathic capabilities, you can see there can be quite large extremes in conduct of all kinds, and a jockeying for position that can be highly orchestrated over huge spans of time to lay traps and see them spring on one's enemy and thereby rise through the hierarchy in having the distinguishing attribute of having conquered a fellow being. It is more akin to your criminal organizations of the gang hierarchy than a just government seeking equality and a fair-handed treatment of all involved in the society. We live by our wits and are rewarded in kind. In the physical form, the expression in the society as a whole, and all of our doings across multiple worlds exists with no awareness nor interest in a higher power than our own. We are aware of many other intelligent civilizations, but see no need personally for any kind of divinity, nor any kind of recognition and support of an outside perspective for conduct and ethics. This leads us to savagery as the order of the day. It is a sophisticated and well-controlled savagery in most respects, at most times. But this will break out and be in evidence on regular occasions because of the need to advance through conquering. This is why we are involved with you on your planet now, because we have this ruthlessness as well as other talents we bring to the conquest, and so have a valuable role to play within the current alliance among the groups wanting you to be eliminated. This has happened to other worlds at our hands and is a badge of honor from our perspective. This is quite amazing from the perspective I hold now, being in the light, because I see things differently from this plane. Like you, when you go to your higher places after physical death, we are with Creator and are always amazed looking back how we live in a blinded fashion to the very origin of our existence and the ongoing support of life itself, as well as much encouragement and very active oversight to take advantage of any sliver of hope to impart a higher perspective. This rarely happens these days because the civilization of my kind of being have fallen so far. We are living on the edge of a precipice, quite literally, because of the level of depravity in our behavior and conduct in treating others the way we do, and even one another. And this hurts us first and foremost because we are harming our own being. We are betraying our own soul to act through depravity, through selfishness and greed, and all the self-serving choices we make to exploit others and even our compatriots at times when we can get away with this. So this is not a pretty picture, and it is one we take no pride in when we are in a higher perspective. But it is an object lesson to all who hear these words. Mark this well. You are on the same path. You are just not as far along as we have reached. You may not survive to fall this far, but it is a lesson for all of time, because it is the undoing of civilizations to sink into negativity to such a degree as you tarnish your own soul, and there may be no way back. This is what you risk with dark deeds in harming one another or other species of life.
Okay, thank you. Is there a memory within the reptilian culture of a time prior to the dark spirit infestation of reptilians?
There is no memory within the culture. And this is because this dark period has gone on for so very long. It is much like going through your youth and adolescence and then learning there is no Santa Claus. You look back with fondness about the happy times with family and sharing and the blessings of charitable giving. But it is not Santa you yearn for, because that was a fantasy in the first place. This is the way our society views any idea of a higher power. There is only those beings with greater technological reach and capability, greater numbers, greater force they can bring to bear, more cunning, more ruthlessness and savagery of their own that could get an upper hand and might be worthy of respect. But that is not the same as honoring a divine source of everything, including one's being, and understanding and recognizing it is based on love and desires love to flow to you. We are beyond the ability to feel love. It has no meaning for us at this point while in the physical. This is the nature of our culture. The young who are born in the reptilian world are fresh from the light, and they are feeling the love of Creator as they enter in their new life. This is quite rapidly crushed and beaten out of them by the treatment of parental authority, who wants them to, as quickly as possible, learn the rules of power and to become tough and capable of ever greater savagery. And so they are deliberately programmed and staged through a series of trials, hurdles, contests of all kinds, physical and mental and emotional as well, to toughen them, to make them insensitive to the issue that they might cause to others. It is only about focusing on the self and acquiring the greatest amount of power possible. The very contest this creates, even for the young versus the parental authority figures, is welcomed because it is part of the training. This is a dual effort. The parents practice savagery, inculcating the young and training them to be savage, but must always be in a position to win out in a contest they themselves incite. It is not uncommon for reptilian young to kill their parents. This is a mark of excellence in our society. So you see, things are so very different from your world in this regard. This is who you are dealing with when you come up against us in warrior mode. We far outpace you in being ready for battle and battle hardened through our own upbringing of the most savage kind of training. This is what you can expect to see going forward.
Okay, thank you. What is the explanation and rationale for why the reptilians are working against humanity?
This is what we do as a further extension of the desire for power. Maintaining an easy balance within our society based on having a hierarchy and power structure. There is no great desire to annihilate one another, but this will happen without great concern because there will not be remorse. There will not even be much finger pointing. There will only be a recognition that someone has outfoxed another, and that adds to their reputation. So it is more a plus than a minus from the standpoint of society. That bloodthirsty perspective is readily exercised against other worlds who are of lesser power. While it is not as satisfying to take on opposition that is weaker, there is nonetheless great delight and joy in seeing the exploitation one can unleash and then have various ways to use the situation and explore many variations. And so this has been quite entertaining for us to be a part of the current alliance here. Interacting with humans is puzzling to us in many ways. We view humans as greatly lesser beings. And this is because humans are so soft and inherently so weak, as well as being less advanced in every way that is important to us, in terms of intelligence, in terms of having mental capability, the ability to manipulate energy and physical objects, the ability to change our appearance and to morph into different objects and beings of all kinds through a reworking of the energy, through use of our awareness and the desire for this to happen. These are capabilities far beyond the human. And so to us, humans are kind of how you would view ants in your world. Something that has some entertainment value and has some curiosities worthy of exploration and study, but ultimately something underfoot and a nuisance because they swarm, they bite, and they invade where they are not wanted if left on their own. And there is a contest then. If we desire a world, we must deal with the current inhabitants to rein them in, put them to other uses, often as slaves. This we have done with humans for many thousands of years and used them for entertainment as sources of food as well. And this is because we do not view the human organism as sacred. This is the perspective of the physical reptilian being we speak of here. From the light, I have the advantage now of being with Creator and seeing the broader perspective of Creator's plan. This is unavailable to the physical beings, much as is true for human. There are few in your world still connecting to the divine in a way that is unhindered. We have seen to that. Our brethren in the extraterrestrial invasion. So you are cut off from awareness, much like we are now. And while the remembrances are there and the link still present, but in a weakened form, you are at a great disadvantage in not fully appreciating your vulnerability. This is what we exploit. And so we understand that humans have some kind of powers, and this is somewhat inexplicable. but we attribute it to some characteristic of the mind. And so we are watching the genetic experimentation with interest as it unfolds with our partners in the abductions, because this is the belief that there can be some further gains in understanding how humans operate and how they can cause things to happen in some mysterious ways that may not even be directly within their thoughts, but nonetheless happen. This is foreign to our thinking, and so it is one of the mysteries here from our perspective. It is still true that we hold humans with great disdain. So it is no different than how you see much in the animal realm as being lesser beings, even though there may be mysteries in the behavior that have their intriguing aspects. You would no more want to be directly involved with them and have them in your home environment than we would want to have humans, unless we control them to make them akin to servants and slaves that would do our bidding without question, without hesitation. This is a form of contest for us as well. But humans are quite easy to intimidate and subjugate, being so much less savage. So we have the upper hand in this because we will kill with no reservation and no hesitation. And all humans who interact with us for any length of time will see this for themselves. We are quite open about this. It is not something that is hidden away, other than we remain behind the scenes on the world stage at the present time. But in our own circles and within our own compounds and bases of operation, we do not hide our behaviors and, in fact, flaunt this because it is a source of pride to the physical reptilian. Power is everything. Savagery is the proof.
Okay, thank you. Is there any truth to the widely held notion that reptilians interbreed with humans?
This is only done in rare circumstances by the shapeshifters who are serving as imposters of humans, usually human leaders. But most times this happens at a stage beyond the breeding cycle. So no young are expected. And so the sexual congress need not be continued. There are other ways to manage the semblance of a relationship, even without the partner's awareness. There are many reasons for declining sexual interest, and the many distractions of leadership are a convenient cover story for having no interest in having a sexual contact. This does happen and can be done if the individual reptilian being chooses for it. But it is not a priority, and it is not something that reptilians look forward to. This is a misconception and is a major kind of disinformation that is being promoted. It is a cover story for the truth. It is the Anunnaki who interbreed with humans, having done this heavily in the past. Less so in modern times because they are not present in large numbers in physical form on your world. They are relying on their descendants through the interbreeding to run things. And this is the so-called secret government, the Illuminati, the various terms used for the deep state, the true power behind the throne, the true power behind governments, and will tell the world leaders, the presidents, the prime ministers, what to do, and will give them explicit instructions. So this is the hierarchy, the true power hierarchy that run things. It is largely the Anunnaki who have set this in motion. And so they have the strongest direct grip on the functioning of human society. The reptilians assist them as enforcers. We participate in many other activities, largely the abduction programs, and serving as imposters at times because of our shape-shifting capabilities. So we can be pressed into duty in special circumstances, and that creates the attractiveness to the Anunnaki. They rely on our savagery to be a more prominent presence and take a more visible and active role when there is a military level exercise to be carried out. We cannot blend in with society in our normal physical form, but we can shift our appearance to that of a human being and pass among you with no ability for you to detect that we are an alien being in your midst. This is a great tactical advantage that we offer as members of this alliance. We are much more willing to be involved in direct physical contests, and we relish those opportunities. So we are the fall guy, as you might put it, the bad guy, the black hat alien, as has been described. And this is a misdirection as well, because we are simply one of a group of black hats. We are all working against humanity in concert, but this is a game that is being played now. I say these things even though I myself am a member of the reptilian race, because I know it is non-divine, that my physical compatriots are on a downward spiral that can lead to the undoing and the eventual demise of our entire culture, and will potentially be lost to history. And this will end things for me, and even potentially the existence of my soul is at stake here. So I have a higher allegiance, as do all, to the divine. And the politics of one's world are a kind of delusion to begin with. It is the illusion of separation that creates the need to serve the self, to serve a hierarchy, to impose one's will on others to gain temporary advantage. All are very, very limited thinking that in the end destroys the self bit by bit. This is where my society is heading. And so we are part of the problem that you have, but it is our problem as well. We are, in fact, in many ways, worse off than you, regardless of what might happen to your world and the people inhabiting it. You will continue as light beings of a high order. We will continue as a corrupted society with an extra level of karmic negativity weighing on us, dragging us down further in the downward spiral we have been carrying forward for many, many thousands of years now.
Okay, thank you. Was any of the information from the interview with Lacerta from 1999 in southern Sweden valid or true? She gave quite an account of her physicality, the fact that they considered themselves the original Terrans or Earthlings, among many other claims. Maybe you could point out one or two that were blatantly false, or maybe one or two that were quite true.
This was